Bienvenidos. Welcome. I am Profe Martinez or Mr. Martinez. And to give you a little bit about my background, I was born and raised in Mexico, in Zacatecas, Mexico. I moved to the US when I was 19 years old. And so my interests are languages in general. Since moving to the US, and I had to learn English. That was a very interesting experience. And then in college, I also learned French, which was also a very interesting but also very rewarding experience. So I do speak English and French, and currently I'm learning Italian. So languages are really like a big part of myself. And since I'm very interested in languages, I'm also very interested in language acquisition, how people acquire languages, and the different strategies that they use, and current research about language acquisition. And that's something that I try to implement a lot in my classroom. When I was doing my master's, I learned a lot about language acquisition too. So it's something that I have very fresh in my mind, and that I try to implement a lot as much as I can in the classroom. Those current practices. Proficiency levels, as described by the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, are important for students to know, and we're gonna be talking about that down the road once students get like the feeling of of the Spanish language in the classroom, and how they're progressing. We're gonna talk about this because each one of them are going to set their own expectations on how to get to the next level. And before we talk a little bit more about these levels, it is important to know how long it takes to learn a language, and to set students, to help students see that, because so that they can also so that they have reasonable goals, and we also have reasonable goals for them, right? And as you can see, from high school, if students start taking the language in class in high school just for 2 years, they're expected to go, achieving the novice high or the intermediate low during those first 2 years. If they happen to take the 4 years of Spanish in high school, they are expected to probably achieve the intermediate mid, and not really the mid, but a little bit below. So we do have to be reasonable with their how they learn the language, because this is based on research. So, and to really acquire the language at the advanced range, they have to be learn the language since they're very young, and continue after high school. So it does take a long time to learn the language, and that doesn't mean that students cannot learn it beyond, because there are going to be some students that are actually going to achieve the intermediate mid or a little bit beyond. So that's why it is important to use the class time as take advantage of the time as much as we can, for that reason, in order for students to be able to cross that and achieve to the next level. And one of the things that we do that they're going to be able to achieve that is by speaking in Spanish, hearing Spanish a lot, reading as much as they can in the classroom, because they don't get that. Most of them don't get it outside. So what we have here is what happens in the classroom? I provide the input, which is, when we speak in Spanish, when we're reading, when they're engaging in an activity that is that has to do with the language, but it has to be comprehensible. I cannot just given a text that is super complicated, or me just speaking the whole time in Spanish without being comprehensible, because from that from all of that they hear, they just take a little bit, which is called the intake, and it's not a lot. That's why it has to be comprehensible. And then from that intake, they start processing everything in their head to then produce the output. So that's why it's very important that we take advantage of the class, speaking Spanish, listening to Spanish, reading, and all of that comprehensible, but +1, which means a bit more challenging every time. And this is when it comes, right? Like competence, that if you just memorize something without really being meaningful or having a meaning to you, then it just gets in your head, but when you try to actually produce it, it might not come as how you wanted it. And that's when, you probably hear a lot of people saying, oh, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, and I only know how to say this. Well, that's because, maybe they in the classes, they didn't work on the performance, being able to reach that level of proficiency and taking advantage of the class time. So we're going to be working on that so that they by the end of this class, they feel comfortable and be able to say things and write in Spanish, and hopefully, reach the next level they're supposed to be reaching. So by the end of this class, Spanish 3 and Spanish 2 honors, they should be able to understand the main idea and key details of more complex informational and fictional text, participate in conversations to exchange information, feelings, and opinions, communicate and request information using connecting sentences and creating questions, and gain cultural competence to understand, compare, contrast practices, products, and perspectives from the entire culture. And how are we going to achieve this? Well, we're going to engage in storytelling. Throughout the semester, we may just create some stories, read some stories, and just engage that, because it's very powerful. Reading is very powerful. Also, engaging in authentic text and task. For example, reading texts that are aimed for people who already speak Spanish, and so that students get the feeling of how does it feel to read that kind of text and respond to those kind of texts that are, if they were going to, Spanish-speaking country. We may read 1 or 2 novels, depending on how much time we have. We're going to explore music from the entire culture and explore the singers, the authors, and the lyrics, and how does that relate to the Spanish-speaking world, and how relevant they are. Students also may engage doing research and presenting findings of some projects, current events, or things that are happening that impacts the Spanish-speaking world, and also students' community. Grades, well, assessments 40%, homework, classwork 40%, finals 20%. The assessments category includes the 3 modes of communication: interpersonal, that they can speak one-on-one, whether it be writing or speaking spontaneously without really thinking about it. Presentational is when they actually have the time to produce a draft, edit it, and then be able to present it, whether it be speaking or writing. And interpretive, working on how well can they understand, for example, a text form in Spanish, or listening to someone speaking Spanish. Okay, so if you need to contact me, you can email me to this email, and I'll be happy to talk to you about how I can better support your student, and we can set up a Zoom meeting. I can call you, or we can talk. I'm not sure if in person would be allowed, but I think it will be allowed. So in person, Zoom, or a call, or just communicating through email. And please don't hesitate to contact me. And I'm really happy how things are going in the class, and I really look forward to working with your student. Okay, hasta luego. Adiós.